All right, welcome in everybody. It is daytime. It is weird. These lights are coming through, natural light coming through the blinds. I don't know what to do in the podcast room. I feel like a vampire that's fixing to melt, but it's all for a good cause. We got to talk some softball today. I understand the SEC baseball tournament is going on in Hoover. Everybody's talking about it, but right now, postseason softball is going on, and we got to talk to a stud, an absolute stud on the diamond. Alana, how are we doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. One of the best things that can happen when it comes to this show is seeing someone on TV dominate the way I watched you and then run into you in person 2 days later in a completely different city. I literally look over and I say to the lady in the seat, I was like, "Hey, is that the South Carolina pitcher?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "I thought so." But you obviously weren't in uniform, but I had to make sure before I made myself look stupid and go talk to you. But you definitely look like an athlete. I was pretty confident in this. And so obviously had to set you up to get on. And so stoked. I hate that Daniel can't be here, but let's break the ice first. I'm gonna break the ice by talking about this here softball in my hand and talking about umpiring. So when I was watching you in the hotel in South Carolina, me and the SEC umpire Javero January, we were breaking it down. He said he didn't understand really how it works, and you as a pitcher are the best person to explain it. When the softball crosses the plate, how much of it has to cross the plate, per the rule book to technically supposed to be a strike?
Ooh, that's actually a great question. Per the rule book, I have no idea what the actual wording is, but I've always been told as a pitcher that any ball crosses any part of the plate in the strike zone, that's a strike.
So as you know, that umpire that night, in fact, was not giving you that at all. And it's the reason why we were questioning the rules because obviously the softball being a different size than baseball for anybody watching the video versus audio, obviously see the clear difference, which was the reason for the discussion. And I was like, if it crosses the plate, how is that not strikes? And that's when Javera was like, yeah, I don't know, because he goes, that's a strike from what I'm seeing, but you weren't getting it. You
Right.
were clearly frustrated, right? Like you kept shaking your head, and the crazy part was that just speaks volumes to you even more because you were able to push through it and succeed, even not getting the calls. And I loved it because you didn't like do anything crazy. You just shake your head like they got that one wrong. But um I'm very curious, and I've seen the umpires do different things as well. Watching
Right.
that SEC tournament, I saw one that was calling them before they even crossed the plate. It didn't even hit the mitt yet, and he'd be like strike or ball, and I'd be like, and Javera was like, usually you got to give yourself a second to like make sure your eyes saw what you saw. He's just
Right.
making an assumption based. So I was very curious, but it's definitely
Interesting.
with how hard y'all throw and from the distance you throw, there really isn't much time, but it just feels very simple
Right.
that if the ball does in fact cross the plate, it's a strike, right? So,
Right, right. And it definitely is dependent on umpires, which I think is part of the fun of the game. And you talk about like where is baseball, softball going with the AI, right? We already have
mhm,
video replay. Now, what if we had an automated strike zone stuff? But
mhm.
from a pitcher perspective, that's just kind of part of the game. You have to be able to know what the umpire is going to call that day and ask questions like, "Hey, Blue, where'd that miss?" And hope you kind of figure it out and can the other pitcher gets the same zone at the end of the day, and that's kind of what you have to hope for.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Consistency. You just said it. If the other pitcher's getting the same exact zone, then I'm perfectly fine with it. Like, because you'll be able
Yeah.
to pick up from either side, whether you're the pitcher or the hitter, what you know is a strike, what you know is not. What was interesting that first night in South Carolina, the fans that I was sitting around, great fans. I absolutely love my time at Founders. But a lot of them thought that my buddy, because I told him he was behind the plate,
Yeah.
was missing some calls. Well, I told them, I said, he has the best rating in the SEC. Well, comes back that night. And so I come back on Sunday or Saturday because I went to Wake Forest on Friday to watch Chase Burns pitch. And they're like, "So what'd your buddy score?" I was like, a 98.7. I said, "I tried to tell you." And they were like,
Yeah.
"I don't believe it." And I was like, "It's true because that's how they grade these guys. Their grades
Right.
throughout the season determines if they get a regional or super regional gig. So
Right.
it's a big deal that they do well. And I was at Arkansas LSU on a Thursday night, and the guy was terrible for both sides. I said consistency. He was consistently terrible. Anyway,
Right.
I'm just gonna tell you, I saw his report. It came back in the 70s, and I was like, "That's about right." And I
Seems
asked,
legit.
yeah, I asked Javera. I said, "Is that something that happens a lot?" And he goes, "Not at all." He goes, "That's not something you want to." He looks at me and goes, "He's not going to be in a regional gig." So,
No, no. And then the next gate he gets is going to be first base. It's not going to be behind the plate anymore. He's
well, that was the best part, right? Javera gets the plate on Friday night behind him, and he goes, "Man, I'm in the best spot ever because no matter what, I'm going to be better than he was, so the fans going to love me."
yes, yes.
But I
And
know
then they
that.
still find reason to complain, right?
Oh
You can
yeah,
never
you're
make
going to be
everybody
hated no
happy.
matter what. But
Right.
I think God had a plan when He made us become friends because I may have been one of the hardest people on umpires, and now I have a different perspective because not even just behind the plate. I learned different rules. Like so, for a
Right.
home plate umpire, I got one for you. So when a runner's at third tagging up on a fly out, everybody always looks at the third base umpire on whether the guy or girl left early, right? Well,
Hmm.
that's actually the home plate umpire's job because it's the third base umpire's job to watch the catch that it's
Right.
secure. So when people are always yelling at that umpire about did he leave early or not, it's not even his call.
No, they got a whole rotation going on every single
Right.
time the ball's in play.
Exactly, because they got different jobs. So you learn, you become to appreciate it more. And so, but enough umpire talk. We got to get into music for a second. Music is important in life. It's definitely important in sports. You
Yeah.
have your walk-up songs, you have your songs that you listen to when you warm up your bullpen sessions. For you, let's talk on the diamond first. If you're gonna go do a bullpen session right now, get warmed up. If you could pick one song to just vibe to right now, what is it?
I don't have a singular song, but I did throw a bullpen a couple weeks ago just on my own time to the entire new Taylor Swift album because I was like, I got to listen to it somehow. I'm going to be here a while. I might as well get some reps into some songs. So I guess my favorite off that album would be the I Can Do It With a Broken Heart one. I feel like that's the most it gives a happy vibe, but it also is just like, get to work, go get better. And I feel like that was kind of the vibe of the day and the vibe of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, like I'll tell this if Swifty wasn't already popular, like if she needed more people, I would say that you and Billy Amick, Billy Barrows from Tennessee, have both said that she's a go-to during his was during a BP session. So like I mean, shout out to Taylor Swift. Like I mean, I bet if I polled maybe all the athletes, you'd probably get a good percentage of those. So hey,
Right. If it's not the new stuff, it's the old stuff. There's something there for everybody.
right. I mean, she's killing the game. Her and Morgan Wallen. Look, I don't even listen to Morgan Wallen, but 9 out of
Mm.
every 10 guests that come on here say they would go see a Morgan Wallen concert. And so even though he's not my jam, I actually don't mind Taylor Swift at all. But
Yeah.
even her, like I can't knock anybody that literally 90% of people are coming on and telling me that's who they would go see or that's who they listen to.
Right.
That tells me you're killing it.
I'll give you a new one. Noah Kahn. Has anyone said that before?
They have not.
There you go. He's in Asheville actually this week. I was gonna go maybe see him, but I didn't know whether or not we'd be in season or not. So he's another go-to, just a little indie artist that's on the come up. So be ready for the next episode.
Nice. There we go. That's the drop. I'm gonna check it out afterward. And then I'm gonna send you a message if I think you're on to something or if I just but no, I'm actually look, I'm a old school. I'm still living in the 80s and 90s when it comes to music. I'm that guy. I was actually talking to a guy at the gym yesterday. He was thinking about going in the spin class and he goes, "You think I should go in there and do the spin class?" And I was like, I looked to see who the instructor was. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, that lady plays 80s and 90s rap music. I was like, go hit it. I was like, you'll jam.
It'll be fun.
I was like, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's the best way to push through an endurance thing is jamming out and having fun.
Right. You have the good stuff going through the years, and then all of a sudden you got the energy to be able to put up. Ooh, that's just a hard life. The spin cycle. Ooh.
Hey, I need to get back in there. I've put on about 20 pounds on baseball season, a lot of hot dogs, and I hate to say it for everybody. I do have some beers at these games anyway. Yeah, putting it I say hot dogs jokingly, but it's anything and everything, whether it's barbecue
Nachos,
nachos, the wings,
popcorn.
yeah,
Yep.
like all of it.
Yep.
So I got to cut that back off and spin class is a good way to do it. You spend an hour absolutely blasting because obviously I don't have the luxury of going out and playing a game like y'all anymore. I go play a game on the diamond right now, I'm gonna be out of commission for a week.
Hey, that's
So
the beer league slow pitch right there.
there you go. I even stopped playing slow pitch. I used to hit home runs not because I like wanted to hit home runs. I just hit home runs so I could run to first base and then to the dugout. Like,
That's funny.
but let's talk about sports for a second. As you know, on the pro level, on the international level, whatever the case may be. I don't know what your sport of choice is if you're to go watch something, but if you can go watch a particular player or a particular team anywhere in the world, who are you going to see? Where are you going to see them?
Well, I'm from Kansas City, so I'm a big Chiefs fan. And given the nature of how they're kind of making NFL go a little bit more international, ooh, I love traveling too. So I would want to go somewhere completely new for me personally. So I think my current number one destination would be New Zealand. So I'd go watch the Chiefs in New Zealand.
That would be that'd be interesting. And from a time differential, I mean, we've already got these London games that are like 9 a.m. here. I mean,
Right.
you'd have to get up in the middle of the night, which there's enough crazy NFL fans, they would absolutely get up at like 3 in the morning to watch,
Oh, for sure.
especially Patrick Mahomes. They'll have money on it. But I tell you, they are one of the best, shows in sports. And, to your point about nationwide or international, I want to go to they've actually been expanding, obviously, to Munich, to Germany. My
Right.
family's originally from Germany. And because my grandmother talked about, where she was from back in the day and all that, Germany's been one of the things on my bucket list. And I told my wife, I was like, if you could double down, if the Saints, because I'm a Saints fan, if the Saints go there, like, and I could justifiably have a reason to just go to Germany, that would work. And she's like, you're not going
Right.
to Germany to watch football. And I was like, I tried, but I do
Right.
like,
You don't know. Hey, it could still happen.
I do like the way that they're going international because you're talking about a brand that's just had massive success. And clearly the way I mean, they've been able to send the Jacksonville Jaguars to London on the regular and sell it out. Like,
Right.
if imagine if you send the Chiefs to all these places, just because you brought it up, like Patrick Mahomes, like it's going to sell out so fast. And so I know they may not be big fans. I guess if you continue having different destinations that are exciting, maybe the
Right.
players get on board, right? Like, so instead of it always being London, to your point, you get New Zealand next year, and then the year after, I don't know, like Tokyo. Like, I don't know, just keep it fresh.
Right.
Like, I
Right.
think they could get down.
Yeah, I definitely think there's people a lot smarter than me making the decisions, but I'm sure they're crunching all the numbers on fan support and jerseys sold and how it all kind of can correlate to actual fan attendance, which is really fascinating.
I'd have to look, but I think both Mahomes and Kelsey are still top five in jersey sales. They have been for like the last X amount of years.
Right.
They're definitely killing it, and the NFL is definitely they know how to make money. That's why I said three in the morning if they played,
Right.
it'd be up. But hey, to
Yeah.
watch y'all's SEC tournament, you had to do 3 in the morning. It felt like I mean, I'm gonna actually fast forward ahead. We're gonna get to all that, but like,
Yeah.
how long was that day? Did it feel like the longest day of your life?
It actually didn't, believe it or not. We had some fun. And honestly, at the end of the day, like it's kind of fun to be playing an outdoor sport and, have the potential rain delays, rain cancellations, all of that stuff. And it just so happened that, our entire season when we were home, we always had rain problems. And we were away, we were kind of just, on the fly, but figuring it out. But postseason, man, it was just I guess we didn't really go too far away, which probably was part of the deal, and we just got all the rainy season. So it's just postseason, so you just have fun and you just wait until you can play, and you're just excited whenever you get the opportunity to go out there.
Do you feel like y'all were more fortunate? Obviously you had to wait, but you were more fortunate because you weren't in one of the 14-hour games. I mean, 14 hours. I said 14 hours.
14 inning.
14 inning. It might as well have
Oh,
been 14 hour. You get what I mean.
right.
And what's funny is perspective is like, right? A lot of baseball fans were like, 14 innings not that bad. And I'm like, yo, they play 7 inning games, so it's double.
Right.
So you'd be talking like the equivalent to 18 in baseball.
Yeah. No, I mean, 100% from a pitcher perspective, we would much rather have a delay than have to throw 14 innings. LSU, Cindy Berzon, I mean, 215 pitches. That's just like ridiculous. And then you think about that from the baseball context, like No, that doesn't happen. So absolutely unreal, and so much respect for all of the teams that played 14 innings. That's so much mental capacity, and that's so much
I feel like
obviously
that.
physical capacity.
So when I just went and covered Tennessee baseball this past weekend, it was beautiful
Mhm.
because I was able to go see our four Vol softball guests. And when they played Dayton, that game felt like it was only 30 minutes. I mean, they rolled through because Tennessee didn't
Yeah.
just bring out the big bats. They only scored 3 runs, and then
Mhm.
Carlton Pickens was just mowing through them. Like
Going.
that game
Yep.
was like, I was worried about if I was going to make the tailgate for baseball. I got to the tailgate for baseball in the same time as everybody who was just showing up regular time. I was like, this couldn't have worked out better. I got to watch her dominate and get over there in time. Like, but that game, I feel like was probably not the norm in how fast that it went.
Yeah, I would say sometimes we definitely get away with the 1-0, the 2-1 ball games. And honestly, this year with the pitch clock, obviously that's been a thing in baseball for years, but this was our first year with the 20-second in between pitches. And I think personally, I like to go fast, so it didn't really change my game too much. But I think a lot of pitchers that really take their time and settle into their routine, I think it really did change a lot of, for sure, the average time is down. Obviously, don't know the numbers on that, but definitely made the game faster and hopefully kept the audience intrigued for even longer.
Yeah, I have a new respect for softball. I will say though, TV is not as cool as in person. I really like the interaction with the crowd and everything. I got to go to Starkville this year for live, and then obviously to Knoxville. But the game is definitely growing. But let's get into your story. You obviously mentioned it, but for those that didn't hear, where are you from?
I'm from Kansas City, Missouri side.
Missouri side. So growing up, when you say Kansas City, were you from a smaller suburban area or were you actually from the big city?
Technically, my address is the big city, but I'm from like North Kansas City, so more suburban.
Gotcha, gotcha. So if you're inviting someone to Kansas City and you have something that is like the must do, it's either go do something or eat something or whatever. What is the one thing you're recommending if they come to visit, they have to do?
I mean, you're going to get barbecue. You're probably going to get barbecue. If you're there for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're probably going to go to 3 different places Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My favorite personally is Elsie's Barbecue. It's over by the Royal Stadium and the Chiefs Stadium, out in Independence area. And it is just hole in the wall barbecue. You walk in, all the smoke just comes straight at you. They'll be like, be with you in a minute. And it's 10 minutes later,
Mhm.
like they're not going to be with you in a minute. It takes a while, but it's well worth the wait. That's my favorite barbecue. And then obviously there's more. There's places that have been there for years on end, that are just iconic to Kansas City.
It's one of those things that I do wish Daniel was here now. He usually has all the Memphis stuff in the background. We're born and raised from Memphis. It's a controversial subject, but the thing is, we've never had Kansas City barbecue to make a true judgment, right? We'll argue to the
Right.
death Memphis is better, but can we really say it if we haven't had it? But what I do appreciate about what you said was the hole in the wall comment. Me and my wife talk about that all the time. The
Mhm.
best spots are always hole in the wall. The fancy, nice places never got good
No.
food. If you're
Mm.
somebody who likes a clean restaurant, you're never gonna get the best. It's just
No.
not the way it is. I mean, they're always cooking with the old grease, and like you said, it looks like the walls might fall down, like
Yep.
might catch on fire, but I love it.
That's when
So
you know you're grubbing though. Otherwise, you're just fine dining. But
you know what? You pass Kansas City on the way to Omaha because I pass it every year when I go to Omaha.
yeah.
This year, I'm saying it to you right now, and I don't lie. It's not something I do. I am either on the way there, on the way back. I'm sidetracking. I'm going. I'm going to get this list of spots from you. I'm going to find at least one of them. Maybe I hit one on the way there, one on the way back. That way, and I will make a true judgment. I will let people know, and not that my opinion is the end all be all, but I'll finally put at least from my side to rest what is better. Because even when I was in the military met a lot of guys from that area. Our barbecue is
Yeah.
better, and I would just fight and fight with them. But it's like I said, I never had it to really like
Right.
make that argument. So I love it though. Barbecue is like I said, part of the reason why I keep gaining weight. It is what it is. So
Fun.
you're from there. Let's talk about family dynamics. You got brothers, sisters, mom, dad. What are we growing up in the household?
I have two older brothers and my mom and my dad. And my dad's side is kind of based out of Kansas City. My a little bit more north. My mom's side based out of the Kansas City side, Kansas City, Kansas. Gosh, it's a tongue twister. And then my grandma lives in the area as well.
Gotcha. So two older brothers.
Mhm.
Being the stellar athlete you are, is it one of those things that you can attribute some of that to maybe some, hard growing up, so your brothers pushing you, whether in a good way, bad way, kind of however it was with them?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't be playing softball if it wasn't for them playing baseball. I was always the girl that was like, "Dad, let's go play catch," even though he's trying to watch the boys play. And then whenever, they would be playing backyard baseball, I'd find a way to get in the game with their friends and try to outcompete them. And when it came down to deciding whether or not to pitch, it was very much like a team effort. Like my brother would have to catch me in the backyard, and it would always be a kind of a family affair. So definitely, I mean, the reason why I'm number 15 is because my brother was number 15.
Nice.
The reason why I ever did anything growing up was because of them, and I think it kind of shows in my competitive spirit. I think it probably gives a little bit of she grew up with some brothers, but hate to lose, but love to win, and it's definitely the Vawter family thing.
And that's why I asked the question, because more times than not, younger siblings on here will say the reason for their success is because their older siblings, like I said, it can go one way or the other, whether they were trying to strive to be like them or whether they helped push them and mold them. But usually younger siblings end up doing great. And I actually love when we have some that'll have some siblings that are still like in middle school or maybe early in high school, and they're currently pushing them, because now I'm paying attention and I want to see how it pans out, because they're in that situation. But you mentioned
Yeah.
dad. You said dad's focusing on them. A lot of girls on here end up being daddy's girl. Dad's the one that's always in the yard working with them. Was your dad that guy?
Yep, my dad was it was funny when I got to Stanford was where I did my undergrad. My coach was like, "You never who's your pitching coach? Like growing up, who's your pitching coach? Like who'd you go to consistently? What's that thing?" And I was like, "No, I didn't have a pitching coach growing up. I
Mr.
went to
Vawter.
probably
Simple. Coach
yeah.
Vawter.
Yeah, I went to probably five different pitching coaches growing up, and I saw them every so often, but never something consistent. You hear a lot of girls at this level that like will go home during their college break and go work with their pitching coach for back home. Like I didn't have that consistency. But my dad and him watching YouTube videos and trying to tell me what to do was probably the go-to for most of the days.
Yeah, I love it. I love that he was a part of all of y'all's, sports journey, and you love to hear it because you see so many parents who don't do their job, and for y'all being successful athletes. But I will say this, as far as you and your brothers, if you had to pick who was the best athlete of the three of y'all, who is
It's Jared. It's their middle one.
the middle
He
one?
hands down, he had a late growth spurt, but had he continued to play sports growing up, he would have been Division 1 athlete in whatever he wanted to do.
Of course, you say the words continue. Of course, the best one didn't keep playing. Golly,
Yeah.
tale as old as time. So, where did y'all go to high school at?
Staley High School, North Kansas City School District.
So, are we talking big school, little school? What are we looking at here?
When you look at the rest of the country, probably very medium sized, but for Kansas City and even for Missouri, we were in like the second largest class. So we had about 15, well, I guess 1,500 was the total in our high school.
Yeah,
So,
that's a pretty decent size, no doubt. It's definitely not small. I
yeah.
mean, we have some that come from those high schools that have like 100, and it's like crazy because my graduating class is like 600, and so when they tell me that, it's hard for me to even picture that. But you
No,
know,
absolutely.
you helped guide them to a state championship, in 2015, had success, district titles, all that stuff the whole way through high school. Just talk about it. Scholar athlete of the year, of course, don't want to forget that. But, you know, I always like to ask this, just how much fun was high school for you? Because when you have success like that, was it one of those things where it was just kind of, it was what it was, or, it meant a lot?
I don't think the success was necessarily the fun part. I think it was just more the girls, our coaches, like our chemistry was unreal. Like, I thought about this a couple days ago because our principal was actually one of my best friends at the time, dad.
Mhm.
And he would, always see me in the halls and start talking. He just loved the fact that, I was playing college softball. I was going to go somewhere and continue on. He played college football. So he would always tell me, he's like, but don't try to wish this away because these are the best 4 years of your life. And I'm like, high school, best 4 years of my life. Like, I've heard people say that for college, for
Right.
university, but never for high school. And now post undergrad, post grad school, post college softball, I'm like, I don't know if they were the best 4 years of my life, but they were certainly the easiest. And I think I probably didn't consider that at the time that, life was going to get real, life was going to get hard. Obviously, COVID happened my freshman year of college. But I just was reflecting on that last week and I was like, I wish I would have taken those words more seriously at the time. Because looking back on it, they were so fun. Those memories and those moments, they still come up. I still talk to a lot of the girls. Like it was just all happy and fun.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, right, it's a fine line because, like, to use my daughter, for instance, she graduates high school tomorrow. She
Mhm.
spent the whole time, being serious, just already worried about college, academics, all that stuff, right? And then me didn't worry about college or academics. It's the reason why I didn't have any opportunities afterward because, I kind of made it a joke, but I had the best social life you could possibly have. Played football, played soccer, held the parties on the weekends, all that stuff. And I think somewhere along the line, you got to find the middle ground, right? Because high school
Right.
was everything for me. High school means nothing for her. And I felt like she's kind of missed out. And I think you got to find that middle ground where you really, appreciate those 4 years, but also make sure you're working to set yourself up for the next four. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
I went to the military for a reason. I did not leave myself very many options because, yeah, when you miss school half the time, the classes half the time, you're not going to get good grades. And if you don't get good grades, it doesn't matter how good you are at sports, they can't take you. So,
Right. It gets really hard really fast.
yeah, so life got hard really fast. I was on the work grind and found myself, you know what, I'm gonna do this military thing, which hey, it all worked out for the best. But my daughter starts LSU in the fall. She is taking everything seriously. I'm hoping in college she will learn to have a little fun. She's going for neuroscience, so debatable on whether she will or not.
Fun is maybe not going to be the final
I
answer
mean,
there.
you can't. I've told her, look, and I raised her. We've been to LSU for every sporting event you could possibly have. And I'm like, even like she doesn't care about baseball. She's like, I'm not going to go to the baseball games. I'm like, yes, you are. I was like, because look, it doesn't matter if you like baseball. I was telling her how I'm, met up with this athlete or that athlete from the volleyball or soccer team, right? And they're
Mhm.
not big into baseball, but they were there just because it's a school thing, support. And I was like,
Right.
when you get in college, like you got to do these things. You got to go out and have fun. Like, so
Right.
I know I'm talking about my daughter and kind of like, but you understand it. Like, she's got to
Yeah.
listen up a little bit.
Does she listen to these podcasts? Is she gonna hear
No,
this
that's
or?
why I'll never get in trouble. It's one of the things. Look, this is a girl who played soccer competitively. She actually turned down a bunch of offers to go to LSU. LSU, she did not get an offer. She decided she was just going to kind of let soccer go. But she's been club and travel. I actually wanted her to take her offer to UT Martin, because it
Mhm.
is a medical school and she had a soccer scholarship there. But I say all that to say, had all these top tier soccer players on here and she didn't even listen to their episode. That shows how much she wants to listen to Dad. She don't listen to me at home. She'll listen to me on podcasts.
Nothing
So
about me is gonna make her want to listen to this, so it's just gonna be.
yeah, Dad's doing it. Now I'm good. Like I stopped listening to him when I turned 13. So all right. So speaking of, I don't know who was in your corner helping you decide, but you ultimately choose Stanford, which is elite to say the least. Just got to obviously it is athletically, but just academically, everybody knows it is. So when you're deciding where you want to go, you're coming from Missouri, so it's obviously not next door. You're picking a decision as well. Who's helping you, and ultimately, why Stanford?
So the long story short is it was my dream school from when I was in middle school. My oldest brother Nathaniel was looking to go swim at a Division I university, and he ended up at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. So we actually had been on a family vacation in the Bay Area, and we went by Stanford's campus, and I jokingly said, "Oh, I'm gonna go, be a student athlete here." Because my brother wasn't really that good to swim there, but he was certainly smarter than I was. But it was still a question of whether or not he was going to get in. So I just made it my goal because I was younger than him that, oh well, if I know this in advance, I'll just go do it. So I started the recruiting process nice and early during pre the recruiting rules that are out there now. And the coaches basically told me, no, we already have a pitcher committed in your class. We're not interested. So I was like, well, that sucks to have your dreams shut down like that. But at the same time, like, I understand, I'm still trying to figure out what's best for me. And I can still find a great school, maybe not a Stanford, but a great school that I can also play softball at, hopefully at the highest level. And I just kind of went with eyes open, and I had committed to the University of Texas shortly after that, and was committed there for 2 years until the coach resigned. And so I reopened my recruiting process, and the coach that I had originally played for in my travel ball organization that helped me get recruited to Texas said, hey, have you ever thought about going to Stanford? And I said, well, yeah, but that ship sailed a long time ago. They told me they weren't interested. He said, well, they have a new coaching staff now. Are you sure they're not interested? And I said, I'm not too sure about that. So I guess ultimately it was kind of my family being on vacation there, and then my brother going to school in California and loving it, that decided, I could go to school in California and maybe love it too. And at the end of the day, I wanted to, the coach that was at University of Texas continue to say it, and I continue to say it as well. Like, I wanted to win a national championship on and off the field. And that was in a great academic institution as well as a competitive athletic department.
So, how much better does it make it your dream school you go to after the fact you thought it was basically not going to have a chance of happening?
It was so surreal. I mean, that's when I think about high school. I'm like, okay, that was the less fun part, was the recruiting process. I can't tell you how many nights I spent like crying myself to sleep, figuratively and literally, just because of how stressful everything seemed. But at the end of the day, like, everything does happen for a reason. Most things do happen for a reason. And I just remember listening to Thomas Rhett's song Life Changes.
Mhm.
And I was just like, you know what? At the end of the day, it really does. And you only can control so much. And continuing to put your best foot forward every single day when it gets tough is kind of what it's all about. And, it's what I continue to do in all the unknown. And it ended up being better than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah, so I mean, and not only does it end up better and you go there, but you go there and out the gate, I mean, you are wildly successful. Like when I looked at this, we have a lot of guests, doesn't matter the sport, male or female, have a lot of success. Very few can say, they go in and have a 9-1 record with a 1.48 ERA, in their 15 appearances as a freshman. So would I be safe to say, if I ask you, did you meet or exceed expectations coming in, that you more than likely did?
I definitely would say, I think I went in to Stanford as a freshman very naive. I didn't really know what college softball was going to be like. I knew when I had excelled in the travel softball circuit. I knew when I did well in high school softball. I really was not aware of what college softball was going to be like. So I guess in that case, like, I really went in with just open eyes, open heart, open mind to just learn everything, to take everything in. And that's, if you ask anybody that knew me as freshman year Alana, they'd be like, oh, freshman year Alana. Like, it's like a joke of what my personality was. I'd introduce myself to anybody and everybody. Like, I just was trying to take in everything that the experience had to offer. So in that case, I didn't really have that many expectations. Going in freshman year, I just kind of wanted to play softball and have fun, and
But
oh,
when you
maybe
when
I
you
can
read
be.
off like all Pac-12 first team, all Pac-12 freshman team, freshman of the week, pitcher of the week, academic honor roll, like the when you look at it, you have to say, even though you didn't have expectations, it's safe to say you would have exceeded them, because unless, and you don't come off as arrogant as all, unless you were just somebody who was very arrogant. I mean, that kind of list you had to have exceeded, because I mean that at a school that was your dream school, and to go there and to thrive the way you did, like make all these lists, like I mean, you really killed it. Like it almost is one of those things where when you set the bar that high freshman year, it's hard going forward, because how much better can it get individually? Obviously, there's the team aspect, but just as an individual, it's like, how much better can I do than this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, I mean, freshman year and just those lists or whatnot, like, you kind of get a taste of what it does feel like individually. And then obviously understanding that we weren't where we needed to be as a team. So really just putting the team first and understanding like we wanted to play at the World Series and we can be good enough to play at the World Series. And obviously I want to be that pitcher at the World Series for this team. And so obviously that was kind of the the road that we went on from freshman year. And that's when the expectations start to creep in a little bit more of, oh, if I'm good enough, maybe I can play for Team USA. Maybe I'll have professional opportunities after this. And so you continue to live those expectations out, but you try to never lose sight of why you started and where you were in the beginning.
Yeah, no doubt. I wasn't gonna go there yet, but perfect opportunity. You bring up Team USA. Let's go ahead and just get into that now. One of my favorite things is when I'm searching an athlete and finding out more about them is going through their Instagram, right? And using it for the positive reasons, right? So I see you at Team USA. And the thing about the pictures is you see no pictures of you individually. At Team USA, it's you and a group of individuals and all of them. Showing that you really connected, you bonded with this team of individuals who weren't your normal team. So it shows me you maximized the opportunity that you had to play with and gain something from playing with the best of the best. So talk about your experience with Team USA, just getting to play with all those girls and what you learned and what was your favorite part, all those things.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It was the coolest thing to be able to, you play against these people for all these years and you start thinking that, you know them as competitors, but to get to know them as people is completely different. So that was definitely my favorite part was to get to hang out with these people that, I otherwise would not have seen in that light, but to be able to see them in that different light. And I mean, I can't say enough about the girls that were on that team. And I'm not sure if they picked due to personality
Mhm.
whatsoever, but they picked just the best of the best. Truthfully, just great people and nothing but fun was had. And we would joke about, who did you meet that you thought was the most different than they actually are? And a lot of girls said it was me. They said that, oh, you as a competitor, like I would not have pegged you for this as a person. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to take that as a compliment because I think that means like I talk more too much. I'm not sure, but different nonetheless. And I thought that that was always interesting that so many people chose me when I was like, I is just was so overwhelmed by everybody else and getting to know them. And that being said, too, the coaches were fantastic, getting to meet new coaches in the industry. Just the opportunity was unbelievable. And the country itself, they were just the most gracious hosts. And everywhere you went, like you never knew who was like, oh my gosh, that's the USA softball team. Like they were just so excited for to watch softball. And we had games where we had 12,000 plus fans in the stands. Like that doesn't happen in the United States. And that's so cool to
Right.
be able to be a part of.
Absolutely, yeah. Anytime you get a chance to wear the red, white, and blue, like you say, play with the best of the best. It's just an opportunity that I hope anybody that gets it. I know, obviously, talking to you, you didn't, but doesn't take it for granted. It's not something that everybody gets to do. It's definitely a small amount, and it's something, whether it was players that you played before, you play them after. We talk to people all the time. It's really cool when you played with them, and then the next time you're facing them in the box, and it's like they're my friend, but not right now. Like.
Exactly. Exactly. Mostly
So
friends, but you can flip the switch a little bit.
so let's talk about some team stuff. Early in your career, the team was not doing as well, but you look as you get older, y'all end up hosting a regional, beating Alabama, as well as Murray State, taking care of business. Obviously, with losing the Supers to Oregon State, but a taste of postseason action that was successful because you obviously went to the postseason the year before. Didn't go very well. So just talk to me about Stanford environment. I've never been there, right? I told you you've been to limited softball, but if you were to tell me about Stanford postseason regionals, y'all are winning, y'all are having success. Talk to me about that environment. Is it one of those things that's really awesome and just you look back and you're like, man, that was a great, place to play, great opportunity.
Yeah, I think honestly, at the end of the day, like the Stanford passion is something that I will speak on and for just forever because everybody at Stanford has their thing. And I knew that from freshman year when I roomed with random roommates. Everybody has, like, one of my friends was a flamenco dancer, that was her thing. Everybody kind of just like finds their passion and goes in that direction. And that being said, that same freshman roommate had no idea what softball was. And I remember just sitting in the dorm room and telling her, like, you want to score more runs than the other team. A run is touching home plate. And like she would come and watch, and she knew, like, she was just so fascinated by that I was out there doing that and my body was doing what I was doing. Like it was just such a humbling experience. Because you know, you're on the same campus as people that are going to go cure cancer, and here you are playing softball. So at the end of the day, like our fans were mostly our parents, and they were the best support system ever. And they were loud and they were proud, and they would always, whatever, you know, we had Ushka was our theme for a long time. So they'd wear the pink cowboy hats and they'd bring all of the pom poms and bring our posters and signs. Like it was just the best parent, family friendly environment. And then also the kid environment was so perfect. We'd always have, you know, as most teams do, the running around the field at the end of the game and the autographs. And Stanford's environment. They're getting a new stadium. It's going to be under construction soon, but right now they have
Are they
both
naming it
sides.
after you?
Yeah, after I know, right? They're starting this year, so just barely missed it. But they have these just like full walls of grass that kids will just go down every single freaking inning
Nice.
of the game. And you're just like, all right, I'm here playing a game. And then after the game, of course, the kids will ask you, like, oh, what position do you play? And you're like, I just pitched 7 innings, but I'm the pitcher. You know, so
I
it's
don't
just
know
it's
how to feel about that. I'm glad you brought that up, right? Like my son gets bothered by it. My son goes with me everywhere. As a matter of fact, he wasn't with me the last 2 weekends, which is a rare anomaly, and it bothered me. But he's one of those that when you know kids will come up and they'll be like, "Hey, number 27, can I get your autograph?" And they'll look at him and be like, "Their name is," and like he's bothered, like that they didn't watch. And
that's funny.
and I actually love it because he's not wrong. Like, because if I'm that player and I got two kids, I got one kid over here saying, you know, hey, Alana, or I got one saying, hey, number whatever, like, I'm not coming to you. You don't even know who I am. Like,
Right.
you know, I love that he pays attention, but it's funny
Yeah.
you say that they didn't know you were pitching, and it's like, I mean, come on, like, I mean, at least I had to
Right.
see the face on the scoreboard, right? Like, you knew I was out there, but no, that's kind
Right.
of funny. But I do want to talk about one more thing at Stanford because I'd be remiss if I didn't. Women's College World Series, you know, one thing it doesn't you'd have to be living under a rock to not know about Oklahoma softball. And you know, obviously last year y'all get to the College World Series and y'all run into this juggernaut. Y'all are able to beat Alabama, beat Washington. It really just shows, you know, you were the second best to this team that just is unreal. Just how good was that Oklahoma team?
Yeah, I mean they're solid. I think you know we handled them, and I think we're a solid team too last year. Um, I mean Stanford's organization is just unreal right now, and obviously Oklahoma's is as well. They run a tight ship there, and those were a lot of the girls I got to meet on Team USA this past summer. So they're great people too, which is just refreshing to know that it's not just all softball all the time there, but they work hard for it and they perform accordingly.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's really a thing about Oklahoma. Like we do gymnastics. We had Faith Torres from Oklahoma gymnastics last night. She was the beam national champion, and then their team was the national champions the year before. Something about what they do at Oklahoma is very precision about the way they go about everything. It's one of those things I want to go down there and see what they got going on. Are they like putting serum in the lab in these athletes? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, and it's not even that they're the most athletic. It's just I don't know. Everything's by the book with them, right? Like in gymnastics, everything's technically sound. Same thing in their
Mhm.
softball. But yeah, they're definitely you know, a problem and one that y'all ran into. But obviously y'all come up just short, but you've been on the biggest stage, but you have to make a decision, you know, what's next in your future. So the big question is, how do you end up at South Carolina?
Yeah, so last season I didn't get in grad school at Stanford starting in February of that year. And so I knew that I wanted to, you know, use my 5th year to, if I was going to play softball, I was going to get an education. That was just kind of always the thing for me. It's, you know, like I said, to commit to Stanford in the first place, you want to go to a great academic institution as badly as you want to play good softball. So I didn't see myself just taking my 5th year and not having something to pursue academically. So I knew kind of from February on that Stanford wasn't going to be the right fit. But I just didn't know if it was possible for me to even continue there and just take random classes. So I worked with my academic advisor throughout the year, and I didn't want to be, too over public about what was going on, just because it didn't feel necessary to take away from the fantastic season that we were having and did end up having. So by the time season was over, it kind of made sense that it wasn't going to be Stanford for me for the next year. And then I really had to decide whether or not softball was even in the question for a year five, or whether or not it was just time to hang up the cleats altogether. But being in the transfer portal, I got the opportunity to meet a lot of different coaches that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to meet. A lot of whom gave me the opportunity that just South Carolina was hands down what I needed to do for myself. And academically, the program was sports management and my MBA, 2 degrees in 2 years. It was kind of unbeatable for my situation and where I was at, and it was 1 year to be able to better myself for the future. And that was kind of the ultimate decision that through a wild summer I was able to come to the conclusion of.
I mean, a few things here. One, you put the student and student athlete because you prioritize being able to put your education and do what you needed to do. Second, being that I go to a lot of colleges, you picked a great destination somewhere where you can enjoy your time, right? Like I haven't been to Stanford actually, but I don't know how Palo Alto is, but I do know how Columbia is, and so it's a great spot, and you went to a place where you could help them compete for a championship ultimately. So I like all the things that came from you making this transfer, and it wasn't a negative towards you and Stanford, right? It's not some bad breakup. It's simply you just needed to do what you needed to do academically. So I love that, right? Like it's so much better when it's not some disgruntled breakup, and I didn't like the coach or whatever the case was, and I had to leave. So that's awesome. So when you get to Columbia, you spend 4 years one place and you're coming to a new place. What's it like? Did they welcome you right in? Obviously the fact that you're a successful upperclassman has to help, but nonetheless, it's a new place. So how was that transition?
I mean, it was tough. I think all transfers, you have to figure out what you prioritize when you're transferring. And for me, it was nothing against, like you said, nothing against Stanford coaches, girls I had great relationships with. Was not trying to leave those in any bad blood whatsoever. But you do, at the end of the day, have those 4 year long relationships that you've created and that you've molded into what you want them to be, just to compare them to, relationships that you've had for 3 months, 6 months, now maybe 9 months. Like, it's certainly different, and you have to be able to recognize that and still be able to appreciate it. But at the end of the day, I mean, I got welcomed by me in a fall football game with 80,000 of my closest friends. Like, it's SEC country, and that's what it's all about here. And everybody, eats, breathes, bleeds Gamecock blood. And I think that that's kind of the passion and like dedication that I've really, loved to be able to be a part of being in Columbia.
Yeah, so being in SEC country, let's speak on that for a second because you talk about it. You talk about the football games. Obviously, the basketball games are the same, women's and men's at South Carolina.
Mhm.
Obviously, baseball, obviously during the season that you have, but when you are able to get over to Founders, just how cool is it as somebody who clearly is a sports fan? Something I didn't even mention in high school. You played more than one sport. You're a very athletic person. How cool is it being in the SEC, being able to take in all these sports whenever you have some off time?
Absolutely. It's amazing. And I think I mean, after you've been here for 1 year and you get a taste of it, you just want to stay for more and be able to, become friends with all of these athletes and see the amazing things that they're doing. Which I had the opportunity to do at Stanford with obviously their women's basketball team, and their football team maybe a little bit lesser, but their baseball team, was hitting up Omaha in the World Series a few years back. Like, it's just a really cool opportunity to be able to say that you're a student athlete and you are one of the best of the best.
Yeah. And so, instead of going through the whole season, I really just want to get to when I saw you for the first time. Obviously, we talked about the two 14 inning games that took place. So it took forever for y'all to be able to play. But y'all played Mississippi State. You have a top 25 team, a team that I'm very familiar with. We have multiple guests from I've gotten to see in person. So I know that they're a very good team. But you come in and you pitch for 5 innings, even with that zone we talked about. But you have success. Just what was it like after that delay that we talked about, being able to go in there and get that win and be able to push on through the SEC tournament?
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome just to see what our team was capable of. We've been talking about wanting to play our best South Carolina softball the entire season, and we really didn't start playing that until kind of the later SEC series and into postseason. So that was really rewarding. And to be at the environment that the SEC put on in the SEC tournament was amazing. Truthfully is this is the best conference and the most I guess just the most resources for student athletes. And that was very apparent at the tournament and what they were putting into softball and what I can only imagine they put into other women's sports as well.
Yeah, I'm blanking on her name right now. What was the girl that had the unbelievable game at the plate for your team?
Denver Bryant.
Yeah, and not only did Denver kill it at the plate, she had a couple web gems too. I mean, talk about having a day, as a teammate. And obviously, it's your first year there. We talked about, but nonetheless, you had all season to connect. How cool is it just seeing one of your teammates have one of those days where, I mean, they're just impacting the game in every single way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Denver, if you look back on her entire season, there were plays like that and there were hits like that. But to see it all come together, it was really her coming out of her shell and out of her potential that, we all knew that she had a year in all season. And to be able to see that when it really mattered most in the postseason was truly special.
Yeah, so y'all get to the regional. You go to Durham, North Carolina, obviously host site of Duke. You start off with Utah, and y'all have success against Utah. End up playing them a second time and have success again. So let's start there. With Utah. Obviously a good team. They played you close, but y'all were able to beat them. Just what went right? How were y'all able to be successful and take care of business on them twice?
Yeah, I think Coach Bev had a great scouting report. They're a great offense. They really played the small ball. They got a lot of lefties in their lineup. Talk about softball being a fast-paced sport. Like they truly emphasized that and caused havoc on the bases. So I think we were able to control the run game a little bit. And we were able to scratch together a couple of runs, having productive at bats. And then the second time, same kind of thing. Like we understood their offense a little bit better and we knew we needed to do offensively. Thankfully, Anaya Black hits a grand slam in the first, and it was enough to hold us over for the rest of the game. And it was really good wins on both games.
Yeah, and so y'all take care of business on them, but y'all obviously have two losses to Duke. We don't want to really harp on that. What we want to talk about, it's a perfect, setup. We have Marissa Young, the Duke catcher or Duke coach coming on. We've had Kelly Torres, the Duke catcher, on this show. So just take that opportunity, especially since she's going to be one of the next guests, just how good that team was. And looking back, you just have to tip your cap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a competitive team. They're going to go out and they're going to do great in super regionals against Mizzou here this weekend. And maybe we'll even be seeing them in Oklahoma City here in a couple of weeks. That's Jayla Wright pitched phenomenally for them all regional weekend. She was pitching back-to-back days and was just absolutely killing it in the circle. And their offense is as competitive as any other offense. Just being able to, they have a good mix of righty lefties and power and quick and you never know when they're going to drop one down, but you also never know when they're going to go for the long ball. So definitely was a competitive offense and a great challenge for us. Obviously, like you said, wish it would have gone a different way for South Carolina Gamecocks, but wish nothing but the best for them moving forward.
I'll tell you, I'll be honest. There's a good chance they win a national championship, and let me explain why. It's the craziest thing. So we joke all the time, but then when we write it down, it sounds kind of like arrogant when we say it, but we call it the in off the bench effect. And if you look back, we always say, whatever guest we have on has massive success, or their team does, and we say it's the in off the bench effect. But the reality is, here recently, we actually, took inventory. Our first gymnast, Kaya Johnson from LSU, just won a national championship. Our first volleyball player, Zani Teeler, won a national championship. That year, our first SEC baseball player, Cameron James of Mississippi State in 2021, won a national championship. And so Kelly Torres was the first softball player we had on. And we had her on a couple years ago. And so it's like, if you just look at the trend on the guests of our show, whoever's the first in whatever sport before their time is done, they win a national championship. So her being a senior, like,
Be a
if I was to go
chance.
lay bets, I was like, I like the way this is setting up. So,
So you couldn't have had me on any earlier than this. This is as good as we get.
you you just happened to be on the TV when you did. I'm sorry, but I will say this on the flip side: if she doesn't, preferably being that we've had four guests from Tennessee. That would be ideal.
That's facts.
So yeah, I don't actually have a team. I just like rooting for guests, and so that's the two teams that we have guests rooting from. So if we can have a Tennessee Duke final, if that's even possible, it'd be ideal.
That's what you're cheering for.
Yeah, no matter
I
what,
love
we
it.
have somebody we know winning because we root for everybody. But with that being said, we're gonna play a game that we play with every guest called This or That. Are you down to play?
Let's do it.
All right, so This or That is brought to you by Chinook Seedery. Unfortunately, all I have left is original. But have you had Chinook?
I have not.
All right, well, I'm gonna have to get you something because that's unacceptable. But it's 8 flavors, mild to wild, the best in the game. They're absolutely killing it. We actually have set up numerous guests with the availability to get some, so hopefully we can get some your way. But whatever your flavor is, like I mean, if you're like a pickle person, which I'm not, you can get some dill pickle. If you even maybe you're that cereal person, right? They got cinnamon toast, they got your typical, your barbecue, your ranches. So anything and everything you can find. So Chinook Seedery, go out there, get your seeds, especially if you're heading out to the softball field. But with that, would you rather grill out or go out to eat?
Ooh, grill out. It's the summertime.
All right, if you're grilling out tonight, what do you want thrown on the grill?
Just give me a hamburger.
Simple. I made some burgers the other night. I'm with you. If you just make simple burgers and do them right, don't burn them, good to
Yep,
go. All right, would you rather have a fast car or a luxury car?
a luxury car.
Nobody wants fast cars these days. Y'all are no fun.
Ah,
All right.
that's too scary. Too fast is too scary.
No,
I'll just
I'm
look good.
mine goes fast. It's not scary. All right, this was a big one for me. Would you rather trip and fall in public or pass gas in public?
Trip and fall in public.
I don't get that. You're an athlete. Like,
I can play it off though. I can play it off. I'll be like hitting a dance move or something, you know?
I heard that. Well, I'm one of those that I played off on the passing gas. The point,
You did.
especially having my 11-year-old son. Like, "Oh, y'all hear that? Like, that was no, I kid, but I don't want to trip and fall. I feel like it's embarrassing, and at my age now, if I trip and fall, I don't know how quick I'm getting back up.
That could be bad news. That's right.
All
Yeah.
right, so uniforms. I always find this to be a big deal. I saw y'all in the black uniforms. I'm always a fan of black. I feel like it's intimidating, it's a strong look, but there's a lot of people who are traditionalists. So for you, is it the red or the black?
I'll go with the black. We always say that if you're wearing the all black, you're going to the other team's funeral. Like that's good.
I liked it. I liked it. It's always something about it, right? Like I said, I mentioned the traditional, or you have a saying like that, or sometimes because teams wear them in a certain order. Like last year
Yeah.
for LSU, Paul Skeens pitched wearing purple always, never any other color. So you knew purple meant Paul Skeens. So you had a lot of LSU fans who were traditional, like the gold's better, but last year they wanted
Purple.
none see nothing but the purple jersey.
That's funny.
All right. So, would you rather listen to, and you can answer this honestly, I'll take no offense because I'm a sports radio person. Daniel, who's normally here, he is a sports podcast person. But what would you rather listen to, sports radio or sports podcast?
I'm big on podcasts nowadays. I would probably listen to the podcast.
Yeah, because you get to pick and choose. I mean, he's right about what he says. For me, I think it's just kind of lazy. I just put on the radio, sports radio in the car, and I just drive and I listen.
Yeah.
And in the gym, he'll listen to podcasts. To each their own. I don't know. I need some crazy loud music, so podcasts ain't gonna work there either.
That's funny.
All right, so this next question, to be clear, you're not winning either. It's just about which one you would rather have. Would you rather wrestle a bear or wrestle a tiger?
Oh my gosh. Was this a viral thing at one point?
Yeah, by us. No, I don't.
No.
I think there was a version of it. But we've
Like
been
who's
doing
winning, a bear or blank?
yeah,
Maybe it was a
we
bear or
but we've
tiger.
been we've been doing some version of this question for at least 3 years. So if it was, it would have been a minute ago because I haven't heard about it. But I do think I normally pull these things from whatever's trending on this or that. So at the
Yeah.
time, the fact that I pulled it, the best bet would be you're right. Somewhere along the line, people were using it.
I a tiger is gonna beat me. A bear is also gonna beat me, but a tiger smaller, so I think I'm gonna go tiger.
You can go that route, or like I've had some that say just a tiger is cooler or prettier, and like if I'm gonna lose to one, like I just like my thing
I'd
is
rather see a tiger in real life.
I say the bear simply because I watch cats play with their food and I don't want to be that person. So I feel like
Yeah,
a bear
that's
will
true.
end me quick, but there's no right answer in this scenario. They're
You're
both
losing either
bad.
way.
Exactly. So I'll give you a winning question.
Okay,
Would you rather have a private jet or a private yacht?
give me a private jet.
All right, so we talked
We're
about
going anywhere we want to go.
this. Yeah, you mentioned New Zealand, but right now, I don't know. What are you feeling right now? If you had a private jet, where are you going to fly to right this second? Snap decision.
Greece.
Solid. That's number one on mine and my wife's list. She actually, I'm so jealous. She gets to go there with our church for a mission trip. I'm like, a mission trip to
Very cool.
Greece. Y'all ain't fooling me. What y'all doing over there? Like, we'll see. I need documented
Some
every day.
pictures, some
Yeah,
videos.
I'm gonna
That's
need to see
funny.
what's going on. But hey,
That's funny.
she claims she's going out there to do the Lord's work. We'll see. Last question, big question, the money question. Would you rather have $10 million cash? I'll bring it to you in hundreds and some duffel bags over there. Or would you rather have a softball national championship?
Well, considering my eligibility is gone, now I'm taking the $10 million.
Wow, that is crazy. So that's bad. Faith took the cash last night, and
She
prior,
also has a national championship.
yeah, well, prior to y'all two, even with 300 plus guests, we had only had 10 guests who actually took the money. Everybody always said the right answer, the politically correct answer. Oh,
The
I
national
won championship.
championship.
But back to back, we have two ladies who said, "Give me the money."
Give
That's
me the
just being
money.
honest because I'm saying I asked the question and everybody says the championship. If I drop $10 million cash in front of you, you ain't taking that championship. I am.
Yeah. That's funny.
Well, you are off the hot seat. I want to give you a chance to plug or promote, shout out anybody. So if you want to plug your socials or if you want to shout anybody, this is your opportunity.
Don't got any shout outs on my mind right now. My socials are my name, and that's about the gist.
Nice and simple. Didn't waste any time. Well, you heard her. Go check her out and go check out South Carolina softball. Go check out Stanford softball. Obviously, she'll be rooting for both. There's no hard feelings. Stanford gave her a great 4 years and then obviously a great year at South Carolina. So go check them out. If you get a chance to go see college softball in person, it's still going on right now. I don't know where the listeners live, but if you have a chance to especially go see it in the postseason, you won't regret it. Softball in person is great, but just overall, support these ladies in the hard work they do. But Alana, we appreciate your time today. Like I said, I wish
Thank
Daniel
you.
would have been here, but we wish you nothing but the best of luck in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jim.
Absolutely. That's Alana Vawter, everybody. If you like hearing her story or you just like hearing Average Joe's talk X's and O's, please like and share the podcast on Facebook, retweet us on Twitter, listen and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and Anchor. As always, ratings, comments, hugs, love, feedback, all that good stuff is welcome. I'll be back later tonight. I'm going to be breaking down the SEC baseball tournament with Hunter Gilliam, former player of Kentucky. But in the meantime, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We are out.